Well, hello. Today I found myself needing some clamps for my CNC router. I had 4. I had loaned some others out, and so on the internet I had seen some really unique clamps made of aluminum, and I have plenty of scrap wood, so I figured I would take a piece of scrap wood and I would actually make some clamps. So as you see on the screen, what we have is a nice piece of wood that I cut some holes in for the use of some T-bolts. These are 8mm T-bolts and some knob screws. I have 2 different kind of knob screws. I live in Shanghai, and you can get some really neat stuff for next to nothing. So this is a nice 300 series stainless steel knob screw I found. I think I paid about maybe 50 cents a piece for those. Anyway, the point here is I want to show you what I did to actually make these clamps. So let's start from the beginning. I started by roughing out an arc with a couple of lines, tangents to the arc. What I did first was I created the outer arc. If I ungroup this, I can show you the first thing that I did. Well, I can't really ungroup the vectors, but so I created the outer arc first, and then from there I created an inner arc, closed off the ends, put a couple of 2mm radiuses on it, and then I went from there. So then what I did was I had a piece of wood that had a size of 227mm wide by, long by 145mm wide. It was 50mm deep. So the clamps that I made, as you see right here, are only 30mm deep, and I'll show you the reason why. I took the 50mm board and I only used got 30mm out of them. So, but the board is big enough for me to make at least 4 clamps out of. So let me show you how I laid that out. After I made the rough shape into something that I think was usable just by doing freehand, I simply did a Control-C and a Control-V, and then I did that 4 more times, and then a Control-C and a Control-V, and then a Control-C and a Control-V, and then I took all of these components, got them nice and even on the screen by putting them in the middle of the work, by clicking here, getting that in the middle, click there, get this in the middle, and click there, click there, get that in the middle. Okay, so now I got it in the middle of the work on both sides. It was really in the middle of the work in the first place, but there we go. So now I have all 4 pieces, but as you see, I needed this slot. And again, I'm not trying to model this. I'm going to cut it in vectors by using the profile tool, and then I'm going to cut a slot in this by using the pocket tool. And so what I did was I decided that the slot needed to be roughly 9mm by 30mm. So I just come over here and I created a rectangle, and the rectangle is 9mm wide and 30mm long. So I'll just click in there and I'll click it, and then I'll close. Now, because I want to line this tool up, where, let me get a mill bit here and I'll kind of explain it, where the mill bit comes in here, and it's really easy for me to make. I'll clamp this piece like so on the router, and then I'll just line up for the center, and then it'll go down and it'll mill this at a couple, 2 or 3 times. But how can I do that and make a tool path? Well, what I did was I just take my little square here, and then I move the square to the center of the work. So now whenever I create the tool path, all I have to do is say I want that in the center of my slot, and it'll start there and it'll make the slot. Now I'm going to use a 6mm end mill, And the 6mm end mill is going to give me nice 3mm radiuses. Well, that's important. So now I don't have to do anything. I'm going to just use a square hole. I'm going to cut a pocket out, and I'm going to have nice little 3mm radiuses that will hold and be just about right for a 8mm bolt going in, and it has a nice rock to it and a nice hold. And whenever you put it on a board, as you see, it'll hold itself, and it'll hold itself nice and cleanly. And I can go this way with it, or I can clamp it down this way, however I want to use it. So now that I have all of the components on the screen, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the tool path mode, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a main cut. Now I've already pre-done some of this stuff, but simply because, hey, I made one. So what I'm trying to do now is show you how I made it. So this is the way I made the tool path, and the depth of the cut, like I say, is 30mm because my board is 50mm thick, and I'm going to cut 30mm out, and then it's going to allow me to put this on a table saw and just rip it, and then this piece will just fall right out. And I didn't have to worry about making a spoil board and putting tabs and cleaning it up after I cut it off with the first rough it with the bandsaw this way, then I'm going to cut it with a table saw. This piece will fall out, and I have my nice piece to cut a slot in. So I'll calculate that tool path, and I'll get 1, but we want 4. So I need to go back to the main tool path, and I need to select all 4 vectors, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll recalculate this, and I'll end up with 4. Let's preview that, and as you see, it's going to cut out of my piece of wood 4 pieces ready for me to rip right down this edge right here with a table saw after I rough them out on a bandsaw. So I'm going to close this, and then let's talk about the pocket. The pocket is this little piece right there, and this little piece right here is just, again, made out of a pocket tool, and I'm just going to create the tool path, and it's going to create the tool path in the center of this block right here. So I'm going to create the tool path, and I've set it to go down 15mm. Now 15mm is right in here somewhere. It's quite a bit deeper than the actual piece, but at least I know I won't have to clean anything up. Maybe just this little burr right in here, but it'll be nice and even, and I'll get a good hole straight down through the piece of wood. So I don't really need to check that, but if you want to see what it looks like, okay, cuts a little pocket square. And as promised, let's reset this preview, and let's just preview the pocket. As promised, I'm going to get this round corners, nice elongated slot. So I'm going to close this, and then we can save these tool paths over to an SD card. After I save them to an SD card, I'll take them out to the mill. So just about now, it's time for us to go downstairs, and next video you'll see is me in my shop roughing out the components, and then we'll cut them up. I'll cut them down with a table saw, put them back on the mill, and cut this little slot. So that's all I have. Let's let the shop do the rest of the work. In the background, you'll hear my friend Chula playing the banjo. I hope you enjoy his music. I'll leave a link to his YouTube page, and you can, if you like bluegrass banjo music, you can get your heart full of it. I'll see you later. Bye bye.